Today in the Nitty Gritty, we talk all things Final Fantasy VII Remake.
One more world disappears inside it. Just another hopeless addict. Well, that makes a man insane. If the drums don't get you, the guitars will.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Nitty Gritty, where we delve deep into details of pop culture. I am the Dez Remake.
And I am your Genova's witness, Fox.
Nice. Hey Fox, you are a Tolkien fan.
I'm a fan of his work.
You've done a couple of things Tolkien in your life. I've
read the books. I watched the movies.
Yeah.
Went to New Zealand really specifically to go to Hobbit.
You had a Hobbit costume that you did once.
Yeah, well, yeah, we did. I did a birthday party for Bilbo and I guess Frodo.
Yeah.
Yeah, and invited a bunch of people.
But really, the question is how well do you know Tolkien?
Tolkien himself?
No. I mean, the Lord of the Rings
works.
universe. Yeah,
okay.
Lord of the Rings universe.
Honestly, I know the main works pretty well.
Because
and some of the side stuff.
Here's a question. I took this test, and I you know more than I do, definitely, but I know a good deal about Lord of the Rings.
Sure.
I failed this test miserably.
Okay, I'm excited.
So here you go. Are you ready?
Yeah, no. Look, I don't claim to be an expert.
Oh, this is more funny, just it's shocking.
Okay.
Ready?
I'm ready.
Antidepressants or Tolkien?
Antidepressants or Tolkien. Ooh, I love this.
Can you guess if the word is an antidepressant
I can see your screen.
drug?
That's not going to ruin it for me?
No, it won't.
Okay,
yeah.
All right. Can you guess the word is an
antidepressant drug or a Tolkien character?
I love
it.
Let's
it's more
do
fair
it.
because there is like emphasis like tildes and things like that.
Yeah.
Not tildes, but accents.
So that might change it? Okay.
So that
language
you might,
stuff.
Yeah. So Edronax, is that a Tolkien? So that's
Edronax.
Edronax.
It feels... I'm going to go antidepressant.
That's what I'd go to. The X is what makes me think
antidepressant. I don't know. A lot of this is going to be guessing. I can already tell.
Correct.
Yeah.
There we go. Reboxetine it's the generic for reboxetine.
Okay, man. We're
there
going.
There we go.
Right.
All right, cool. Here we go. Celebrane.
Celebrian.
Or Celebrian.
Celebrian. If it's in Sindarin, it'd be Celebrant. No, it sounds too similar to Celeborn. I think they're trying to get you to... I'm going to go antidepressant.
You think you're making up antidepressants to trick you into thinking it's a Tolkien character?
Well, no, I think that's the trick, is that it happens to sound like this elf name.
Okay, all right.
So
antidepressant?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Oh,
Elf Lady of Lothlorien, the daughter of Celeborn and Galadriel,
wow, I didn't
as the wife
okay.
of Elrond. That's Elrond's
the wife of Elrond?
Fox, how dare you?
Look, here's the thing. Tolkien is a great writer, but his female representation leaves a lot to be desired.
She was also known as the Lady of Rivendell. I mean,
she might have shown up in the book in a sentence here or there.
Amantadine.
Can we go back to Celebrian? This character's name is Brian, but it needs to sound like an elf. So, Amantadine, antidepressant.
That's what I'm thinking too. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
All right.
So I'm 3 out of 4.
You're 3 out of 4.
3 out of 4.
We're doing here.
Nardiel. That's
Nardiel.
It sounds like it. Look, they're trying to trick me again by telling me
shards?
It sounds too much like Narsil.
Yeah.
The shards of Narsil.
But they weren't trying to trick you before.
Shut up. That's my logic still. Antidepressant. Do it. Yep.
Correct. You got it. There you go.
Cool.
How about Desriel? Desriel.
Cut the ring off of your depression, off the hand of your enemy depression with the shards of Nardiel.
This one, there's the Foxamine. This is the Desriel.
Desyryl.
Desyrel.
Dang it. Okay, there's also some like metagaming here. It's like how many have they gone on either side? And we've gotten 2 antidepressants in a row, but that doesn't look like a spelling of a. I guess it doesn't have to be an elf.
There are 24 of these, but
we're not doing all of them.
We're not doing all of them.
All right, yeah, let's get to 11.
Okay,
whatever.
Well, Desriel, make your pick.
Tolkien.
Tolkien? No.
3 antidepressants
Sorry.
in a row?
How dare you?
Ridiculous.
Narvi.
Narvi. Hey! Hey!
Listen.
Hey, it's Narvi.
Narvi.
We got that Narvi's here.
Hey,
Hey!
listen.
Hey, listen.
Go,
I'm Narvi. The great Deku tree sent me. It's all he had left.
the mediocre Deku Tree sent me.
That's the new Deku Tree at the end. Like, all right, Narvi, I'm gonna go Tolkien on that one.
Correct.
Yeah.
There you go. He was a dwarf of Khazad-dûm.
Ooh, dwarf of Khazad-dûm during the second age.
All right. Well, Fox, what's going on in news today, my friend?
Hey, so we talked about this a bunch. It was announced for part of the Summer Game Fest that Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2 will be remastered.
Yeah, I'm excited.
And are being released.
Yeah.
Really excited for that. Really great games. But also awesome that all of the original main roster are getting modern, current day scans.
Yeah.
They will be a bunch of middle-aged dads.
Love it.
And then Alyssa Steamer also will
That's
be there.
incredible.
Yeah, and so this is kind of the quintessential. Remember a long time ago we had an episode where we talked about how dads are having an influence on gaming? This is like a visible, obvious, like
a direct influence.
Yeah, hey, all these dads are in this
like a cause. Yeah.
In 20 years we're going to remake this game and you're still going to be in it as your then dad form if you have kids, of course.
Well, speaking of quote unquote selling out, do you see some good news? Did you watch some good news?
No, I haven't watched any of them in full. I've watched some of them.
After 8 episodes, he finally decided, you know what? You guys are the good news now. He said that on the last episode. You guys are the good news now. You guys, because a lot of people have been doing things like that. He's like, you guys are kind of taking this into your own hands.
Yep.
This is the last episode of some good news. And at the end of every episode, he would stand up and walk away and be wearing like something weird.
Yep.
He stood up and he was in suit pants. He completed the suit for the last episode, and he walked away, and it was really good.
Maybe the good news all along was the good news.
John Krasinski's Some Good News sells to Viacom CBS following massive bidding war. CBS now owns the rights to Some Good News after a huge
Is he going
war.
to be involved in it at all?
He's a producer. That's it. So he is stepping back and he's saying, I'll be like, I'll kind of help you make it. I'll take the credit of producer. To me, at first, I was like, oh, come on, man. Like, again, with the selling out, keep the integrity of it. But at the same time, as I thought about it more, I'm like, wait, why would I not want more good news?
If the point of the show remains the same, to spread good news and shine a spotlight on people you might not have heard of, especially when things are tough, then cool. This is just boosting that signal to, everybody who still has CBS, I guess. In Fortnite, so have you seen that there's a new Christopher Nolan movie come out called Tenet? Tenet.
Yeah,
Tenet.
The first preview just dropped today.
Pumped. No, the second preview. There's been one for a while.
Okay.
I'm super pumped for it because I like Christopher Nolan. It looks like a mind-bending, cool story.
Mystery or whatever.
I like Robert Pattinson. I like John David Washington. They're both really cool. They're both in it. But the second trailer that dropped that you're saying actually premiered in Fortnite.
What?
It premiered in Fortnite's Party Royale mode that they just dropped.
Oh, they did do the Party Royale.
Do you remember way back when we talked about like what Fortnite should do? And I casually, just mentioned, hey, maybe we could watch like movies together in Fortnite.
I do remember that, yeah.
And at the same time as they dropped this trailer, they also announced they're going to be screening a classic Christopher Nolan movie this summer in Fortnite, whatever. Like, it's no big deal, but also, where is my money? Where is my money, Epic Games?
Speaking of Robert Pattinson and movies and things like that, Robert Pattinson refuses to work out for the Batman role because he doesn't want to, quote, set a precedent.
Robert Pattinson in one of the... Look, Hollywood is Hollywood. The image you get of celebrities in Hollywood is not real life. I don't know people personally. I don't know these movie stars personally. And I can't say who they are. But this is the best thing in the world. Rob Pattinson's hilarious.
Stupid.
He's so great.
He's a troll.
I love him.
He is the mother of all trolls, man.
Look, I love him. He does not. I was expecting you to say Robert Pattinson refuses to even meet or talk at all about Midnight Sun is what I was expecting you to say. Like the new Twilight book. Like anyway, he's put it on his list of no questions.
I would
in interviews.
Not be surprised.
That'd be hilarious
At all.
But I love it. Batman does not have to be super jacked, especially if he's going a young.
He doesn't have to be huge and massive man, but he should be fit. and
Why?
muscular.
Give him a muscle suit that he wears
But
underneath
Bruce
his suit.
Wayne still needs to. Bruce Wayne is still the person in that suit.
Sure, I understand. I think this is fine, though. Look, if we're going to get to a point where we say that there should not be such a emphasis on body type and stigma about body and whatever, then this has to be something that is allowed.
I disagree with that.
Really?
Right off the bat, because I agree to the extent that if this was a movie about businessman or lighthouse guy,
okay,
or
there's a
whatever
difference
else,
there. You're right.
Absolutely,
You're right.
But if this is,
It's about a character who's known for being super jacked.
yes, for being very fit, for being the peak of like literally the peak of human physicality.
Real quick right here, let's just mention, speaking of Batman, it has been announced that the Snyder Cut of Justice
This is
League
ridiculous.
is being released. And we're not going to talk about it right now. We're going to have an actual full episode about this whole situation.
Yes.
Because the Snyder Cut is weird. It's such a weird anomaly where it's being released purely because of fan outcry. And I don't think they know. I think it's going to be a be careful what you wish for situation. So let's get into what have you been doing? This
Surprisingly,
week?
a lot.
A lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
So first, I've been rewatching The Office, and you told me that it's funnier the second time around.
Yeah.
And
Or at least just as funny.
well, because it wasn't that, it was funny. It was fine to me, but it wasn't a comedy show to me.
There's a bit of like, oh, I know what's coming up. Oh, it's so it's funny.
Way funnier the second time.
It's really
I don't
weird.
know why.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did not expect it to be this funny to me the second time around.
I am, I'd say 80% of the way through Assassin's Creed Origins.
Ooh.
It's really fun. I'm really enjoying it. The grind of just going to locations and completing them and doing the same thing over and over again. I enjoy doing that in games a lot of times, and there's no exception. It's fun. But also I just appreciate how much they do this in a lot of the Assassin's Creed games, but how much is just unexplained Egyptian culture. There are rituals that you see or things that he says that they never tell you what they actually mean. I've been really enjoying just how much of the culture is just, hey, this is what the culture was like, and we don't feel like we have to explain everything to you about what's going on.
I have been watching with my kids Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Me too, with
with my kids?
no kids.
Wait, what?
No kids involved. Just me.
I have never seen a single episode of it before.
Yeah, and I have.
And we are loving it.
It's such a great show.
It's very, very good.
Yeah.
I'm really enjoying it. I finished season 1.
Okay.
We watched episode 1 of season 2.
Yeah.
But here's what I will say. I am 100% Uncle Iroh.
That guy's so good.
I am the old man who just wants to sit and have tea and take a nap.
Yeah.
But also is like just chill.
And also a
yeah.
firebender, a legendary firebender.
Yeah, he's incredible. And I love him.
I finished. My wife and I finished. We finished the 3rd season of The Good Place. I don't know if have you seen The Good Place?
I've seen a good chunk of it, and
Okay.
I know a pretty good deal of the story.
It is. I loved it.
Yeah.
There's 4 seasons. The 4th one is currently happening, and it's only
It's the
available.
final, right?
If you're yeah. If you're on, it's on Hulu, but it's only like the most recent episodes or
Yeah.
something. I don't know. We haven't been able to watch what's next. So anyway, at the end of the 3rd season, it's such an ambitious show to me.
Yes.
It is on the surface like a real fun, like basic kind of idea of, I mean, not spoilers, but here's the premise. They go to a group of 4 people wake up in what is called the Good Place, and it's revealed to be essentially heaven.
Yeah.
But
they don't deserve to be there.
And they find one of them, the main character at least, finds there's been a mistake. It was a different Eleanor, whatever, that was supposed to be here. I shouldn't be here. And then that's like a fun concept and like a comedy that's set in heaven. You're like, wait, how is that going to work? And the show changes so much and so fast that at a certain point, it's
well done.
hard to keep up. I mean, you can't just jump around episodes at the beginning. Like if you're watching Scrubs, there are kind of overarching stories sometimes, but you can watch a season 7 episode or a season 4 episode, and it won't make a huge difference aside from just like places in life where the characters are. This one, if you watched a season 3 episode and then watch a season 1 episode, you would think they are different shows.
Well, Fox, it's happened. Shared Island has ruined Animal Crossing for me.
Shared Island has because your kids and you are playing it now, and I assume all of them have their own profiles.
And when I introduced the game to them, I went in and all of my fruit had been picked.
Yep.
Several of my trees had been cut down. There were no more rocks. They found out that you could destroy the rocks, and they didn't know that it takes time for them to respawn. And it's just one of those things where
sounds like your kids are a bunch of noobs.
I don't want to turn around and tell them you can't do this.
Right.
They're playing. They're having fun.
They're playing the game. They're playing the game to how it was made to be played.
They're just having a great time. But for me, for actually trying to like quote unquote progress in the game,
well, there's definite progression. Yeah.
Do the things you want to do in the game. I just can't.
Yeah.
I can't anymore.
It's a real problem.
Yeah. And so, it's played in our house every single day. I have not played it in probably a week.
Jelly's Marble Runs.
What?
There is a YouTube channel called Jelly's Marble Runs, in which whoever it is, Jelly, let's call them. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it right. That's how he pronounced it, but I've also heard it say like Yella or something, like in a different accent, like a different language. And it is essentially marble racing. They set up a big plastic track and set a bunch of, and at the beginning there's like a it's literally made out of Kinects, where it has the little engine that brings it up to the top, and then like a roller coaster kind of thing, and then the marbles go down and they race each other.
That's it?
Yeah. Here's what it is though. It's far more than that.
Okay.
It is the Marble Racing League. There is Marbula 1, where each marble is sponsored and shares a team in the Formula 1 Racing League. They recreate the tracks that the Formula 1 League or whatever uses, so that they're very small, obviously marble-sized ones, but they're the same shape and distance and stuff, like just scaled down. It is an amazing thing to watch. That's all I've got this week.
Yeah, that's all I got.
Cool.
Shall we get down to the nerdy gritty?
Yeah, I'm about to destroy you, so let's do it.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Hey everybody, before we get down to the nerdy gritty, just wanted to take a quick minute and talk about our Patreon. So if you've listened to us before, you've probably heard that we have a Patreon in which we have just a few tiers, 3 tiers, $1, $5, $10. At each tier, of course, you get different rewards. At the very basic tier, at $1, you get access to what do you get access to? I completely forgot. You get access to our Discord, as well as like behind some like bonus videos that we put up on our YouTube channel. If you go to the $5 reward, which is more specifically relevant to this to our nerdy gritty, you get access to the director's cut version of the nerdy gritty every week, which is essentially the unedited version.
Right.
We leave in everything that we kind of cut out for a more palatable, shorter version that we put up on all of our channels. And usually it's a good 20 to 30 minutes of extra content. Like you are getting your bang for your buck. It's at least like half the length longer. So we would love it if you were able to get up on our Patreon and support us at any level. We would appreciate that. But of course, we always appreciate you no matter what. If you can't do that right now, if you could share or recommend it to a friend, or just be part of the Dez and Fox universe in some way. Yeah. We appreciate everybody with all the support you give us at all times. Thank you so much. Just real quick, that's patreon.com/Dez and Fox. Now let's truly get down to the nerdy gritty.
So in 1997, an incredible thing happened.
It did.
One of the greatest games ever made. I think that's an objective thing. One of the most popular games.
Yes, objective.
Games.
Maybe popular, but can't be objective if it's.
Anyway.
Commonly considered to be one of the best games.
Final Fantasy VII release.
Final Fantasy VII came out on the PlayStation.
It was so beloved. It had like this huge following. Because of that, over the years, there have been rumors of a remake for current systems constantly. Finally, we got the Final Fantasy VII remake.
It's called Final Fantasy VII Remake. I'm still not over how stupid that is.
It's a ridiculous choice.
I remember at one point there was like a real big question, like, to creator or Square Enix or some person who said, hey, when is this going to happen? And they said, we're interested in doing that, but only after we make something that is at least as good.
Yeah.
Which I think, based on my assumption, they consider Final Fantasy 15 to be that. I think that's what they're... You can disagree. I'll disagree with that.
Right.
But I think that's what then gave them, okay, let's do 7 now. Because Final Fantasy 15 came out
at least
4 or 5 years ago now.
At least as good. I guess it would have been too soon. I'm like, I would consider 10 at least as good, at least as far as a game goes.
Sure.
But
that was, but 10 came out
was too soon.
Only 6 or 7 years after that.
Too soon.
Yeah.
So, Fox and I decided, because there's been a lot of talk back and forth about this game.
There's a lot of things to discuss about it.
Right. Fox and I decided, you know what? We have so many things to say. Let's make a whole episode out of it.
Right.
He and I both beat the game yesterday.
Within half an hour of each other,
Yes.
I'll say. I beat it and then picked up my phone to say, hey, finally beat it. I've got a lot of things to say. And that message was from on my phone waiting for me from you. And it was crazy to read that.
I said, just beat Final Fantasy. I have things to say. That was literally my message to Fox.
Yeah, it's, man. So we beat it just yesterday. It's very fresh in our minds.
Mm-hmm.
And, okay, let's premise this. We're going to talk about what we thought about it.
Right.
And we're definitely going to be doing some debate on its quality. That seems to be true. There's also some big things I want to talk about regarding, like, the nature of a remake. And then there's also a very specific part of the game that I want to get to that I think can even go beyond, like, your opinion of the game.
Right.
So anyway, let's just start there. Hey, what did you think of the Final Fantasy VII Remake as a whole?
Shocker, I loved it.
Okay.
To me, is a fantastic game, really well made, really clean. I have nitpicks, obviously, and I could get into a lot of those nitpicks now. In fact, let's go ahead and do that. Let's nitpick some things here.
I've got a lot more than nitpicks, man.
Okay.
I have a very disappointed walking away from it. I don't like numerical ratings. I think they're boring.
Mm-hmm.
But if we'll be explained, I'd give it a 4 out of 10. I did not enjoy my experience playing this game.
I was wondering if you'd say something like that. So I'll go and just toss this out right now.
Sure.
In Metascore, in Metacritic.com, there were 119 critic reviews.
Okay.
19 of them were perfect 100s.
Wow.
109 of them were positive ratings. 10 of them were mixed ratings.
Mm-hmm.
There are 0 negative reviews for the Final Fantasy
Zero
VII.
negative at all?
0 negative reviews.
Wow.
Of 119 critical reviews of the video game reviewers, nobody had a negative opinion of it. So I'm shocked to hear you say that.
There are some things that I really liked about it. But I would say overall, I did not have a positive experience playing this game.
Man, that's crazy to me.
Yep.
But we'll get into that.
We will.
I have nitpicks here and there. Like there were probably 3 or 4 boss fights that I think just took too long. I feel like there was a slog in some of them where my armor was high. I learned to use barrier very early on. Barrier and regen combined was really, really good. And
sure.
But there were also some bosses that just had really high armor. And if you did not have assess on your character going into a combat,
right?
Because they split your party sometimes, and so you'd go in with a party you were not prepared to use.
Yeah,
sometimes
they did.
And there were 4 total characters you could have.
Yeah.
You could very easily be prepared for that afterward. Okay. But after that, not having assess, it would have you come to this moment where you're like, oh wait, I don't know the boss's weakness right now. I guess I just got to go for it. And because of that, it never forced me to lose combat, but it just made it take longer for me.
Right.
So some of the boss fights I just felt were a little bit too long. A lot of the textures just didn't load. That's an issue in the game.
I literally never noticed that, but I never care about that. So unless it's somehow game breaking. So that's not something I ever noticed. Like the graphical thing, I thought it looked great.
It removed me from the immersion sometimes.
Okay.
Again, just the texture is not loading. And man, I didn't write down my nitpicks. I don't know why I didn't write down my nitpicks. I had little things like that. I got all kinds of other things that I loved and that I really wanted to get into. But
okay.
Oh no, here it is.
There we go.
Texture issues. Oh, the NPC issues. Just that I've said this before. You feel like they min-max the character animations.
Yeah, they spent their time on main characters.
The main characters are incredibly like just
unnecessarily beautiful.
But then if you go talk to somebody, you hit the top button, and then you got to wait for 6 seconds for the conversation to start, and then it starts, and their jaw moves like independent of their face.
They definitely, you can see where they focus their time.
Yeah, absolutely,
for sure.
That's kind of it for my nitpicks.
Really?
Though.
Okay,
yeah.
so then, on the you have a positive view on it. Give me your nitpicks. I have a negative view. Let me give you what I thought was good.
Okay.
I thought the combat system, the main thrust of your gameplay, was incredible.
Yes.
I have nitpicks about that specifically, but overall, I loved it. I never felt like I, for a certain amount of time, a little while, I was like, oh, I'm never going to get to grind. And that's like an assumption of mine when I, play a JRPG. And typically in Final Fantasy, that's something you get to do, where you can grind out levels and just be OP for everything. And I really enjoy playing JRPGs that way.
Right.
Well, playing any game that way, I guess. So I just want to go through. I want to sail through the game because I took the time to grind out and play through.
Not just because it's on easy mode.
Right. But I was a little upset. But then I realized, actually, no, they're really kind of trying to direct your experience here. Mm-hmm. They want to keep the challenge up. And I'll say that I had problems with the combat in certain situations and whatever. But there were lots of battles where I was on the edge of my seat.
Yeah.
And it was like, and then I pulled it out in the end. I was like, yeah, like I did it. And I those were really great moments. And so I loved the combat overall.
To me, we can talk about the combat here for a little bit. My brain, I came up with this last night after I finished recording. I'm like, dang it, I wish I'd have mentioned this in my review as the credits were rolling.
Sure.
To me, the combat was like an escape room. It balanced fast-paced action with stop and figure out the puzzle really, really well. To me, is this really great balance of there's tension and you're trying to finish things fast and you want to get in there and battle and fight and do all these action based things, but also there is a puzzle behind it. There is this weakness, cast this spell, prepare this person with that thing,
sure,
give them equipped with that and that person equipped with that, and let's get everybody Barrett to me was nearly invincible because I had him equipped in a way that he could just withstand anything. He had like 7,000 health, and I would immediately let him get his steel skin and barrier and everything like that. And then I gave him all my cure and raise stuff. And so no matter what happened to my party,
your tanky cleric,
tank healer, yeah. No matter what happened to my party, he could raise us and heal us up. And
sure.
It was so. Oh yeah.
Here's what I don't appreciate about it is that I wasn't given the opportunity to change my loadout in battle, which I've complained about this a lot to you and as well as on our Discord. But I feel like it was kind of punishing you for not knowing what the future held. You didn't know what was going to happen in the next battle. You didn't even know a battle was going to happen. Now you're playing it and you are not sometimes adequately equipped for it, in my experience. Even beyond just not knowing the weaknesses, sometimes your character loadouts weren't even really great for it. Especially, I think, toward the middle of the game where you are encountering more difficult bosses or more varied bosses, but you don't have enough slots on your characters, like with materia, to be able to do everything. And so you have to really be judicious. And sometimes you just didn't get the opportunity. And I get it. Like, oh, you died. You just try again. I feel like that's not my fault, though. I feel like the game is punishing me for not being able to tell the future. The worst examples of this for me were when you fought toward the end in chapter 17. By the way, spoilers.
Oh, yes.
We're going to get into heavy spoilers here.
Spoilers.
Everything is going to be spoiled because
right.
If I'm going to complain as much as I want to, I'm going to have to spoil it. So,
yes, huge spoilers.
That's what this is all about, is about me getting to complain. No, you fought in chapter 17 a series of bosses, whatever. One of them was the swordipede or
the swordipede.
Eel. It was literally called the swordipede.
Yes, I love the swordipede.
Fine character design. Mid-battle, though, you started off fighting with two characters. Yeah. Mid-battle, it switched to the other two.
Yeah.
Interesting concept, but for me, the second two, I didn't have the ability to heal. It did not give me, by definition, the opportunity to prepare, because you had two separate parties at that point, accomplishing different tasks, both of them fighting different bosses. The way I played it, and maybe there was a better way to play it, was, I mean, it was pretty role-based. One character is a healer, one character is a black magic user, one character is a DPSer, that kind of thing. Those are the three major, because you never have more than three. And so when you have 4 characters and 2 of them are both on their own thing, that ended up for a lot of Chapter 17, I had to, after I switched characters, immediately stop and just reload out both the characters I had available to me at that time, which wasn't a big deal because that's how the game works. You change out your loadouts. It did slow it down for me, which was boring. But when I am changing over the healer, because when it's in this one, it's Aerith, and when it's in this one, it's Barrett, and then you, without warning, switch over to my other 2, then I'm forced to fight this person. I died like 3 times because I just didn't have the loadout that I wanted to have. And I felt like that was a real problem.
Why didn't you just buy more materia?
Because, here's the thing. I still couldn't have changed it, though.
Do you remember that during a cutscene you can hold square to go to the menu?
When?
Always.
When did they tell you that?
Very beginning of the game.
Oh. I never knew that.
In situations like that.
I didn't remember that.
That doesn't mean that, of course, you know what boss is coming.
Right.
But if you needed to.
Yeah, you still... That is, I guess, irrelevant to the conversation then, because I still can't predict what's going to happen. I can't predict what this boss is going to need.
So, I understand what you're saying. I struggled with that 0%. And so...
It was a problem for me. We played differently. That's fair. I understand. Yeah. But at the same time... it still just gave you no opportunity. Like it punished you for not knowing what was going to happen. And that's by definition not okay.
I think that, first of all, you always know you're going to fight. That is obviously, it's a game.
Yes, but in context, in what context, who's going to be a part of your fight?
So you prepare everybody to fight.
But not everybody. You don't have enough spaces to put so here's the other major problem. Point where this was a problem for me is the final boss sequence. Because right before you go into that sequence, which we'll get into story, because my main problem with the game is the story. We're talking about combat. But before you get into that, you have an opportunity to load out all 4 of your people. You got to heal. You got basically, it literally told you like, hey, this is the point of no return. Yes. Get ready to fight. Do you want to go back and buy stuff? They made that very clear several times. There was a lot of points of no return. It was weird. Yeah. But that was very clear. So I prepared all 4 of all my characters with their major thing that they did. And then I started the battle, and it was just Cloud, who couldn't heal because that's not the character role he played in my game. He didn't have black magic because he was a DPSer. It told me to prepare my characters. This is how I played. And then eventually another character shows up, and then all 3, and then one of them just leaves for some reason. And it just kept switching around and removing from my gameplay the opportunity to use the gameplay mechanics that it gave me. And that was a real problem for me. I played the last sequence of bosses with the best cure. Barrett was my healer because Aerith inexplicably just didn't show up, except for at the end. There was no reason for that. So all the best healing spell I had was Cura. Because even if you the problem is you can't just if I wanted to have multiple characters, if I want to take up space for every character to do everything, then A, you're not going to get the opportunity to do everything because you only have a certain amount of slots. And B, at the end of the day, I can have Aerith have a curing materia and Barrett, but I would have to have them both using them the entire game for them to be as leveled up as I want them to be, because you level up materia individually. So at the end of the day, I did prepare okay, let's have multiple characters be able to heal, but I gave Aerith, my healer, my constant healer, the better one, and the other one I only had leveled up to Cura, and that was Barrett. So I had to fight Sephiroth at the end 4 or 5 times because I had to use mega potions most of the time. Because
spoiler.
That's not. We already gave spoilers. Oh, you fight Sephiroth in Final Fantasy VII. Oh, big deal. Didn't make any sense in this one, but let's move on. So that was my major problem with the thing, with the combat. I loved the combat overall. I wish they gave you the opportunity to switch out materia mid-battle, and I'm perfectly okay with that being a big cost. Make it use 2 ATB pars. Make it be a 3 times in a battle and you're done kind of thing. Like, limit it. But if I can throw an item in mid-battle, then I can put a new materia in my weapon and take off an old one. Like, it makes sense logically that I should be able to. It just seems like an unnecessary limitation to what you're able to do in the game. And it was very frustrating for me.
I mean, there are a lot of limitations in games that are quote unquote unnecessary. Obviously, like that's it. When you're building a game, there are going to be rules that you set, and you have to set some of them. I don't know if arbitrarily is the right word, but for the sake of balance or for the sake of however you tested the game. And it's not necessary, but it was a rule that they set up that you can't change out materia. Like for me, I always had 2 of my party members equipped with cure materia. Always had 2 people with cure. And that way, if anybody ever fell, I always had somebody to be able to...
Well, sure. My workaround was I'd give, like, Item Master to somebody else, and their items would be better. But I tried to... Final Fantasy has always been a role-based RPG series, and that's how I played it, was each character had a specific role to play, and I built up my materia in that way.
This is something that we'll get into with the story, too, but from the very beginning, I think they set a precedent of this ain't going to be what you expect it to be. And I learned, like, I had that same thought too. It was like, okay, Barrett's my tank. Cloud's going to be my, my balance guy. Tifa's going to be my DPS. And it didn't take me very long to be like, ooh, I can't be that strict with this.
Yeah. That happened for me too. I'm not saying like,
yeah,
but I still played a largely role based. And so toward the end, like either way, it would still be removing the things you set up from you without any warning or without any reason a lot of the times.
I guess if I'm going to be blunt here, here's what I'll say. The things you struggled with, I did not experience. Not that I didn't struggle with, I didn't experience that. I had maybe 8 game overs the entire playthrough, 8 to 10 maybe. Every boss that I fought, not that I remember, if I failed, then I learned, changed my loadout, and went and beat it the second time. I don't think I had to fight any boss more than 2 times. And to me, I don't think it was a punishment. Like, I could see where if you are struggling like 3-4 times on a boss, where it seemed like, holy crap, what am I supposed to do about this?
Especially when it's a sequence of bosses. Like with Sephiroth, when it's like 3 hours straight of boss fights, and it's either do the same boss fight like Sephiroth or go back to the very beginning. It's like, that's a punishment right there.
Or I will say, I got 1 game over on the motorcycle chase with the big motorcycle boss.
Yeah.
The guy with the tires and things like that. I got 1 game over with him, and then I did not die another time. I went through the entire end boss sequence without dying. And so again, it's not so much that I didn't struggle with it. Like I did not experience what you experienced.
We had a different experience with it.
Yeah. And so I don't know if it's just that I played differently toward the beginning of the game, or that you made different choices than I did, or whatever else. But
sure. That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. Again, this is the problem with talking at length about something, is that you can only say I loved it so much before you then hammer on things you didn't like, and it starts to feel like you hated the game.
Right.
I didn't have a very positive experience. The combat specifically, I did really enjoy.
Yeah, it was really
I did really enjoy it. I loved the combination of turn-based, where you were able to slow down time, but also action-based. Like, it felt like it felt like, to me, and this is kind of a nod toward my whole idea or opinion on the game, it felt like they got the combat down and they were like, that's gold. Now let's get through everything else fast and put this game out. Because here's the thing, I thought the story was terrible. I thought the story and the writing were absolutely terrible. And here's my major, what the major signal of that is to me, there is nothing different. I won't say nothing. There is very little different at the beginning of the game from the end of the game. Nothing really changes. The only thing of consequence that happens is Section 7 plate thing or whatever, it falls. And even that didn't apparently seem to have much impact because, well, they kind of try to have both where it's this huge tragedy, but also somebody says, well, those dang avalanche got a evacuation going, so it wasn't a big deal. Like, kind of felt like they wanted to go both. There wasn't really anybody that died because of it, if I remember correctly.
Everybody on the upper plate died.
Oh, sure. Yeah, okay. I understand. That's a tragedy. But it would have been great if there was somebody I actually knew, like a character that died because of it. Like, nothing personal. It just felt like a tragedy that happened.
Jesse
didn't die because of that. Jesse
Jesse
died.
died in the assaults on the Section 7 plate. The Section 7 plate.
Yes, Jesse died fighting whatever, but not because of the fall. Regardless, very little was different. Also, Jesse's role was pretty inconsequential in the thing overall. She didn't actually have a huge role. Nothing really was different from the beginning to the end.
We played the same game, right?
What was different about the status quo of the world from the beginning to the end of the game?
The status quo
of the situation of the world of Midgar, of the city, of.
Well, the story wasn't about the city.
Well, no, the characters. What was different about, like, some Cloud kind of changed a little bit, kind of got more like open, but at the end of the day, like, the game was ostensibly about this terrorist group fighting this big company, and then Sephiroth shows up, I think a big mistake they made was assuming that the audience knew Final Fantasy VII things. Do you remember Star Trek Into Darkness when it was about Khan?
Yeah.
And at one point when they have Khan, Benedict Cumberbatch, in jail, and he, like, turns the camera, but also he's talking to and he's like, I am Khan. And there's, like, a musical sting, and it's like,
yeah.
But if you've, the problem with that was, if you had seen, if you knew who Khan was in real life, it still didn't, like, this is a different movie, and so you're just like, oh, okay. And if you didn't know who Khan was, it's a completely different movie, unconnected from that one, so you're just like, okay, you have the same name as that other guy, but it's pretty different so far. And if you didn't know who Khan was from the original Star Trek II, Wrath of Khan, you were just like, who? Why is this a big deal? That's his name. Okay, great. Like, that's not what makes him evil. The actions he did. And to me, that was like Sephiroth. I have never played the full Final Fantasy VII experience. It's a couple hours of the beginning. I don't know who Sephiroth is if I'm going to play this game. Like, he's just evil bad guy, I guess, because he's fighting the good guys. The only thing they explain about him is that he's a war hero and that he's apparently supposed to be dead. And then they show Cloud and him have some kind of past or something, but they never explain who this guy is. And so his evilness is that he's fighting you. So, like, the whole end of the game was about you fighting Sephiroth and had no real personal consequences to me. It just was evil man using these weird ghosts to create giant monster, and then you beat him, but also he's still alive, so it didn't really matter that, like, the fight, like, he's not dead. You just stopped this giant monster, I guess. Like, there was no point to that whole thing. I don't know who Sephiroth is. What is his motivation?
So when they introduced him in Chapter 2, did you miss that?
I saw, like, brief flashes where it's like Cloud seeing him, but it's like an illusion or something. Like,
right, but like him standing in front of and glorifying in a burning village.
Cool. Who is he?
I don't think you need to know somebody to know that's probably a bad thing.
Okay, he's evil man. But who is he?
So we know that he is a very bad person.
We're told he's a bad person.
That is uniquely tied to Cloud.
Okay.
And that there is something going on there in the past. Now, of course, this is Act 1 of a series of games.
Okay, you still have to have a satisfying story, even if it's Act 1.
Again, I feel like we're talking about different games.
Because it feels like we are as well.
Everything changed throughout the entirety of the game.
Like what? What was different at the end of the game from the beginning?
Okay, so...
Sephiroth's not dead.
Okay. I need you to define change, otherwise I'm going to talk for an hour here. So like, what was different about the characters?
What was different
as players?
What was different what changed? What did the characters do that changed anything from the beginning to the end of the game? The beginning, you are a terrorist group fighting against Shinra, and there's something called the Ancients that we learn about but have no impact on this actual like game. That's like a future thing maybe.
No, because Aerith is part ancient and Sephiroth is an ancient.
Okay.
They go into both of those.
But what does that have to... What? Okay, great. What does that have to do with what actually happened in this game, though?
Because the ancients were tied to the planet, and we're trying to save the planet.
Yeah. Lore is not the story of the game, though.
But all of that takes
place
important
in the game, yes. At the end of the game, Shinra still exists. Like, the president of it died, but then he's just immediately replaced by his son. None of the other villains die. Like, none of the villains die. Even President Shinra never really did anything evil. He just was evil bad man. The rest of them are comically one-dimensional evil bad men, especially Hojo. He's just evil bad scientist. Sephiroth, you spend all this time fighting him. He creates this big fate monster thing. You kill that, but that doesn't really change anything. It seems really disconnected from the actual city or the
whispers
Earth.
are something I will get into because
the whispers are nonsense because this whole destiny thing makes no sense,
and that's something we'll get into later here. But
okay.
let's focus on this because I feel like I could turn this around and tell you how Fellowship of the Ring is a bad movie or is a bad book by your definition.
No, Fellowship of the Ring was about a group of people coming together to overcome to begin like this quest to take down evil bad guy. At the end, the fellowship breaks apart due to the evil found within that group.
But nothing changed in the world.
No, what changed?
The bad guy was still there.
No, what changed? Well, first of all, no, they killed the main bad guy of this book. Of that book, they killed Lurtz. If we're talking
wasn't in the book,
right? If we're talking movie, sure. Regardless, the fellowship breaking apart was the like cliffhanger where the fundamental story changed. And
you spent 40 hours in Midgar, you stepping outside of the city and leaving. That's the fundamental change.
Did we leave?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought we went out there because there was bad guy. It showed you at the end just like standing there.
On the outskirts of the city.
It didn't leave any like cliffhanger. It didn't leave any like specific about what's going to happen next. It was just at the end, we defeated Big Monster and saved the city from this thing, but everything else stayed the same. What? There was nothing different. Like, the status quo remained the same. Shinra is still evil company, led by evil people. Sephiroth is still apparently evil.
We don't know what's going to happen with Shinra, actually, because President Shinra died, and
then new President
Rufus
Shinra just took over.
And we don't know anything about Rufus.
Well, that's also true. That's a problem.
He's a new entity in this.
He immediately started fighting you, so, like he basically just took the role. Like, they couldn't have old man Shinra fight you because he's an old man. I guess that might make it so let's get his son to come in and fight you anyway. Like, the status quo of everything is still exactly the same.
I'm literally just blankly staring at you.
You haven't told me anything that changes yet.
Okay, because change is such a simple word.
What is different about the world? What kind of impact did you as the player have on the world that was set up and was the point of the story? Because Fate Monster was not the point of the story. It was just big boss thing.
So the point of the story is not you trying to overcome Shinra.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
You are an Avalanche terrorist group trying to take down company.
No, why are you trying to take on the company?
Because they do bad things to the world.
What is happening there? Again, I'm thinking you missed a beat here. What is Shinra doing that is bad? Company isn't bad because we say it's bad. They're doing something.
They're sapping the energy of the world.
So we are fighting to save the planet. Shinra
through
is
the means of fighting Shinra. Yes.
Shinra is the thing that is damaging the planet, but from the very beginning, our goal is to save the planet. And as we continue through it, like save the planet because Shinra is sapping the energy of it. And as we continue through, we find out why Shinra's doing this. We find out how it used to be different. We find out what the ancients are and their relationship with the planet.
Yes, we learn more lore about the world. Yes,
relationship with the planet and things like that. And all of a sudden, we learned that Shinra isn't just the bad guy here. The bad guy is abusing the planet in general. And then we learn about Hojo and Genova and this whole thing where they're using the
They never told us about what Genova was. We never learned anything about Hojo. He's evil scientist. He's not a character.
Hojo is evil scientist.
Right. Genova is thing. We never learn about what that is.
We learned that the planet's energy is now being used to create an army for Shinra, and that there is soldiers that have already been made, and that's part of what soldier is. We learned that Sephiroth, like, we learned so many things on what's going on.
When did they tell us about the soldier thing?
That was a theme through the whole thing, that soldiers are not infected, but they're infused with Mako.
Okay.
And that they've been, like, Shinra has been putting the energy into them.
They're doing evil things.
Army. Yes. And so all of this ties together with us fighting for the planet, and now Sephiroth is coming, and he is also fighting for the planet.
Is he?
Yes.
When does it show that? He literally creates a giant meteor to destroy it.
Because his goal, he is a much more of a nihilist, where it's if you're going to kill the planet, I'm going to kill you first.
When was this explained?
In the entire explanation with Hojo, they talk about with Hojo, with Sephiroth, with that in the lab, all of this has gone over.
I legitimately don't remember any of this. I don't remember ever them telling us who Sephiroth is. He's just a guy we're supposed to learn he's evil because Cloud is afraid of him, or he creates these
monologues
things
several times, or people like
yes, when we're fighting him,
and Aerith talks about him as well.
When
about who he is.
Man, this is legitimately like I feel like I'm an alien on a different planet. Like I didn't understand what the point of anything that happened was.
I love you. You know I love you. But there have been many times that we have played games together, and you've been like, what are we talking about here? And I've had to tell you, they just told us that. Or
yes, when we're playing together and making jokes.
Or whatever else. Yeah, and things like that. I'm sitting here genuinely wondering if at some point you somehow missed some pretty huge story beats in this.
That's impossible. It's too linear to not do that. Like,
or maybe we're distracted or something. I don't know, man.
It's very possible.
Yeah, because a lot of the questions you have were answered.
I would love to know when specifically they told us about Sephiroth, more than just that he's evil man and that he was a war hero and he's supposed to be dead.
It's
what his purpose is. He speaks in like vague riddles most of the time that don't actually have any. That
lab sequence in Hojo's lab and that section of Shinra, that whole time, that 2 or 3 hours we spend there, is the shift from Shinra to an overarching world thing.
Okay.
We are learning in all of this that Shinra's impact is not just we're sucking the life force out of the world. It's that for decades, Shinra has been using Mako to experiment and do all kinds of terrible things.
We already knew that, though.
And because
you literally just said before, we already knew that they were doing things with Soldier.
And because
we learned about these evil like monsters like halfway through the game.
Because of that, Sephiroth is now coming back, and he has this idea of like he's fighting for the planet, but in a violent way. And Aerith explains that to us.
I legit don't remember that Aerith ever saying that.
I mean, I can't tell you.
Yeah, I'd love, look, if I missed something somehow, sure, that's fair. It didn't really make any difference, though, with the whole fate thing.
Okay, so let's get into that.
I thought that was the dumbest part of the
destiny and
it was very Kingdom Hearts
and things like that. And I disliked that as well at first.
It made no sense.
It did not.
It was literally nonsensical.
Because, and I really think it was just a poor writing choice.
Yes.
To use the word destiny
and fate.
If they had used a different word, it could have been perfectly fine.
Right.
Everything could have. He had
said, to clarify, because if fate has to be like stopped from changing,
then it's not fate.
Then it's not fate anymore.
Yeah.
The Whispers are doing the thing that they are stopping people from doing, and that is changing fate. If something is going to happen, like it's the problem with having a rigid like a worldview that says everything will happen no matter what, like
right.
predestined thing. Like, so if these weird whisper ghost things exist to stop you from changing fate, then they're changing fate because what you would have done would become the new fate.
Right.
And
is
so it's
fate at
inherently
that point.
nonsensical. And so when the entire end of the game is you fighting a big weird monster made of them, it just felt so lame.
So
It felt so lame.
I think the only real problem there is the word destiny, because that's the word that Red 13 uses, and it kind of hammers that down a lot.
Word, but the entire thing is revolving around that too. So,
but if they had used the phrase like the will of the planet, or
they would have had to explain how a planet has a will, but sure.
The whole like the life force, the planet itself has had kind of like a role in all of this.
I never really interpreted that as like a sentience.
Okay, that's fair enough.
I always just thought it was an environmentalism kind of thing. It was the planet is being destroyed by mankind's actions, and Shinra is the avatar for that. So we as Avalanche are fighting against Shinra.
Know that, and maybe again, to your point here, the ability of me knowing this beforehand may have helped.
Yes.
But when they say things like the planet is crying out, the planet is suffering, the planet is struggling, they mean that literally. Like the planet as a...
You have to explain that, though. You
So-
cannot assume that your audience knows something about a completely new game because it's a remake.
But
Especially if they're changing the game.
Here's what I'll say, going back to the whispers. Part of me is wondering, and again, they can't explain this directly in the game, but a little more explanation might have been good. But the whispers, I think, my guess, is basically the storyline of the first game.
It felt like there was a lot of meta commentary. At the end of the game, you go to some weird planet in space or something, and Sephiroth's like, "Oh, things are changing," or "That's the end of creation, I guess," or whatever.
The edge of creation.
It was just so. It felt like they were trying to explain to you through this whole game in that we find out here at the very end. Oh, it's different now,
right?
Which felt so like unnecessary.
See,
stupid.
If this is the case, I love that, because this is their way of telling the player, look, man, you're not going to get everything that you wanted from the original game. Things are going to change. It's going to be different.
Couldn't they do that just by making a different game?
But because people want a Final Fantasy VII Remake.
It's a remake, though. So they can... It's not a remaster.
So we'll talk about the remake and that stuff too. But if this is what they're saying, I like this idea of somehow in the game, in the actual story of the game, they're telling the player it's going to be different. Yes, I know that previously we had set this destiny of the game. There was a set destiny of exactly how this game is going to play. And we see destiny interfere in times like when Barrett... I thought Barrett was going to die, by the way. When Barrett gets stabbed
and then gets brought back
and then
to
gets
life.
brought back, and Red 13's like, that wasn't destiny. And I think that was just saying, that wasn't in the first game. And so we were trying to enforce the story of the first game.
And can you see how somebody who hasn't played the first game, that's just a bunch of wasted time now.
Right.
It is literally nonsensical. I have seen images from the game, like when you see little flash forwards toward the end, and you see like Cloud carrying a person in this lake or whatever, and you're like,
see who it is.
Sure, to keep, you're like, I know what that is, but it's all in essence, what you're saying is that it's okay because it's fan service.
What I'm thinking now, though, is what if that's not the case
or
anymore? Or
fan apologetics, I suppose.
What if this whole purpose of the Whispers is to tell us that we can fight against that? Like, maybe that's not Aerith in your arms this time.
It's not it doesn't make any sense then. Maybe it could be, maybe it doesn't. If it's different, do they have to tell you, hey, it's different? Everything about the game is different. Did they at the beginning have to say, hey guys, the combat's different, but you love it anyway? Like, to try to like use the medium to, it seems like they're trying to apologize for it being different through the story itself, and therefore really muddling the point. The game, for the vast majority, is you fighting against Shinra. You go on multiple missions fighting against Shinra as this avatar of destruction of the planet. They do evil things. You want to fight back against them. But at the end of the game, the final boss isn't anything to do with Shinra. It's some guy named Sephiroth, who they, I guess, maybe vaguely tell you also is this way, but he's introduced to you as a character really at that point. There are very brief flashes of like half a sentence like interactions between him and Cloud in which he's never explained to who you are, and then toward the like in the last couple hours he's like, oh wait, no, he's the big bad, and now he's the one who is like, Shinra just kind of takes a back seat when it felt like, hey, why are all you characters taking all this time to fight against Shinra and climb up Shinra, and then you just leave? Like, narratively, it just felt so dissatisfying to just leave what the enemy of the game, if they're the bad guys, like, I understand we left to fight Sephiroth because that whole nonsense is happening, but we're there the whole time and seeing all these evil things they're doing, and then to be forced to leave, like, it just felt so like out of nowhere to me.
We're not done with Shinra though.
I understand. It felt like a bait and switch kind of thing. It felt like, here's the narrative of the game, but you like Sephiroth, so we're gonna have you fight Sephiroth. Couldn't be Final Fantasy VII without him. Like, I could easily say, well, why not just put Sephiroth further down the line when we start to learn more about who he is? Because we're not done with the game. But it would have been much more narratively satisfying to me to have you deal a decisive blow against Shinra and to have their deception revealed to the world. But then, boom, lead in, oh, it's not just Shinra? Oh, they have far more nefarious, overarching, the planet. They're not just, bad company. Like, I felt like they did not really accomplish an effective narrative for telling you what the actual bad thing was, and tried to just set up Shinra, and then you leave and you're like, I wanted to fight them. They're the bad guys. Let me fight Heidegger. He's been set up as the bad guy this whole game, and now I just have to leave and don't get to fight him. Like, it felt so dissatisfying to me.
I can understand that. I think we have to remember, though, that this is just the first part of several games. We're gonna have to deal with all, like, they're not leaving Heidegger behind. He will come back. They're not leaving Rufus
Agreed.
Shinra
I understand.
behind.
Yeah, you still have Sauron at the end of Fellowship of the Ring. It felt as though it would have been super dissatisfying if at the Fellowship of the Ring, Sauron shows up on the, at the Rauros Falls, and they fight him on the shore there, and like, then they fight him, and then like it would have felt premature, and it felt like to me, they're trying to do this Darth Vader thing, where like, to me, that Sephiroth is the ultimate evil or whatever in the world, and to fight him so soon just felt weird. And at the end of the day, nothing the characters did had much of an impact on the world.
And that's true.
That was super dissatisfying to me, because even if it is the first part of a series of games, each one has to have some sort of impact on the world that your characters had, or at least some sort of really big impact on the characters themselves.
Yes.
And the characters are all at the same point at the end of the game that they are at the beginning.
And so I think that's absolutely not true.
We know more about the lore, but all four of them are fine, and none of them had any, they don't learn about themselves. They don't really have any new narrative thrust.
How did you miss this stuff? Like, Cloud was the mercenary that only cared about the next dollar, and he becomes somebody who loves a team, and he is a different person.
He accomplishes that arc halfway through the game, though. He's not different at the end than he was halfway through, and he was a nice guy the entire time, just a little more jaded at the beginning.
He was not a nice guy at the beginning.
He still helps everybody the entire game. There's never a point in which he says nah and leaves. He's still there helping everybody the entire game.
For money.
Okay.
He's working the entire, well, not
the
entire
game. No. He gets money one time
parts.
after that first mission. Everything else he does for nothing and to be a nice guy. He goes and helps Jesse. He's the bodyguard for Aerith.
Jesse paid him with materia. The Aerith bodyguard is the first thing that he is not paid for, quote unquote, and he tries to demand payment, but he still does it all. Sap.
Though. Right. So it contradicts the character you're trying to set up.
No, he is a sap.
Like, it's just, man, it just, I was so dissatisfied by the story, and I felt like it was very poorly written.
man,
We had very different takeaways from this game.
Yeah, no kidding. Because you're just saying all this, and I'm like, you had to have missed something then.
Maybe.
Because Barrett began as the zealot. He's ready to murder everybody on the planet. But then there's the moment when he finally lets Rufus Shinra go because he doesn't want to kill anybody else, or because he doesn't want to be the person.
He only wants to
right
kill
there.
all the grunts, all the soldiers.
I mean, that's everything.
It's still a
ever.
problem.
Yeah.
Just because it's a trope doesn't mean it's not a problem.
But, Barrett, his zealousy is tempered by his sudden realization that I don't want to be the bad guy just to beat the bad guy or whatever else. Tifa.
Don't remember when that happened.
It's him holding Shinra and deciding not to kill him. Rufus Shinra.
Sure.
He could have dropped him off the edge and he chose not to.
Yes, he makes that decision one time. But the rest of the time, he's fighting everybody and trying to kill everyone. He's intentionally trying to kill Sephiroth. I mean, does he not want to beat that bad guy to not be like... If he makes that character change, then it immediately goes away because he still tries to kill everybody else.
Well, we don't know if they were... The Sephiroth thing... Sephiroth blatantly showed them that his plan was to destroy the world.
Uh-huh.
So there's a little bit
but
different
that's what Barrett thinks Shinra is doing anyway.
Slowly. And
they're still destroying the world though, and creating this army of mutants that we just had revealed to us.
Barrett's goal is to stop that and have Shinra stop that. He takes Rufus Shinra over there and he's like, "You're going to change things now."
These character choices, I guess, are so if they do happen at all, which I don't think they do really to any satisfying degree. They're also very one note. I thought every character was the same at the beginning and that they were at the end. Like Cloud changes a little. I'll give you that. He changes to not demanding money. But that's not much. That's not enough for me. I felt like it was just like dropping the ball hardcore on the actual story of the game.
Man, I mean,
especially pacing. I thought pacing was a huge issue.
Just to make the points, you're not even the minority. You're literally the only.
No, I'm not the only one who has a bad. Yes, out of those 119 critics, sure, but I'm not the only one who thinks
anything
this
that
way.
I've read online or anything like that.
I don't care about that. I don't care. This was my takeaway.
Right.
Like,
man,
that's fine.
It's genuinely weird to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like it was super dissatisfying. Final Fantasy X is my like gold standard for a JRPG writing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like they have lost 12 did not reach it, and then 13 was trash, and I thought 15 was not.
13 was trash.
I didn't think 15 was very good, and it just feels like they have lost. I think the Kingdom Hearts story is a bunch of hot garbage, even if it could make sense if you learned it all. I think it's stupidly written and poorly told. Like, I feel like Square Enix has just lost their way as far as writing a story.
I think genuinely what's happening here is it's not your jam, and that's really it, though. Because there are the majority of the world love it.
Okay.
Critics, like people who know as much as you or I, or more than you or I, about what good writing is and about what quality storytelling is, love it.
That's fine.
Yeah,
I'm glad for them. I loved
so,
playing the game. I thought the story was bad.
So, and that's an entirely valid point. I can't take that away from you. Your reasonings to me are things like that. There are a lot of times that you and I have these debates and you're like, I do not see this. And I'm like, yeah, that's fair. I'm not saying you're wrong. I genuinely don't understand. Like, I'm lost here.
All right.
So that's weird. Well, did we want to talk really quick about remakes and things like that, or we're way over on time?
It's a long one. Let's just be real quick about it.
Okay.
I
remakes
thought
in general.
At the end of the day, I think this is a great remake.
Agreed.
Because I mean, Final Fantasy VII Remaster would be fine if it's the same exact thing, just new, but that'd be a waste of time. Like, I've already played that game. So I really enjoy when a remake like this is something very different. At the end of the day, I can't fault them for doing something new. Like,
yes.
I love that. I really appreciate that they said, hey, let's take this beloved property that everybody and their mother enjoys and just kind of throw it out the window and do something new with a lot of the same characters and, it's kind of general story ideas, not even story beats.
Yeah, I loved this whole thing where they honored the original.
Yeah.
With doing something entirely different of it. You get like the medieval remake. It's literally pace for pace the
It's
exact
the same game.
game.
Well, it's a remaster.
Yeah, no, it was a remake.
Well,
I
mean, I guess there's the difference there between just
right.
graphical update,
I was
but-
correct because in our video when I played it, I'm like, this is a remaster, not a remake, and I got corrected several times. No,
sure,
it's the other
remaster
way
is a
around.
technical
Right.
decision. Remake is a from the ground up thing. But
And so, to me, I like that they chose to remake this and change some things, but still honoring the original in the process.
oh, 100%. It never felt like they. Yeah, no, it was. I felt like they hit a good stride between updating and holding it to the original kind of ideas and standards and just kind of tone, I would say.
Right.
General cadence about people's love for the game and how like the story message it was trying to hit still hit that environmentalism thing, which I think is really important, especially now to kind of talk about. Hopefully this might be somebody's entryway into, oh, this could be real life. Like in a sense of the planet is dying, I should help it kind of thing.
Yeah,
Like-
absolutely. And it's crazy to me that whole thing was done in 97, forever ago.
Well, the planet, we've been doing bad things to the planet.
That's
for
true. That's fair. Yeah.
About
yeah.
120 years now since really since
Industrial
the
Revolution.
industrial 210.
Yeah.
Yeah. Long time.
Well, guys, thank you for listening. Thank you for sticking with us through this entire podcast. Let us know what you think about Final Fantasy VII Remake. Let us know what you think about the story, the combat, the pacing, the Chapter 9, or was it?
Yeah, we didn't even get to that.
8.
Chapter 9 was hot.
Chapter 9 or
Chapter
8?
9 was hot garbage.
Man, I loved it.
It was nonsense.
I loved it. It was so
It was really
fun.
bad. You have this, it's a terrorist group who wants to take down Shinra, but they're going to do a dance competition for some reason.
He's got to save the girl. That's Cloud. He's got a white knight syndrome. He'll do anything to save the girl. Anyway, let us
that's
know what you
your
guys thought about
interpretation.
all this stuff. And
He'll do anything except for stab them. Stab someone.
You can't grumble. That's your interpretation.
No.
When literally the
I really
opposite is
think you
also
are.
your interpretation.
Well, sure. I think you are stretching what Cloud's character was. He did everything to save everybody.
So we appreciate your guys' support. Thank you to Granger for the use of our theme song. All our friends have Wi-Fi, and some of our neighbors do too. Off of the album Dear Sam.
Hey, we've got a bunch of stuff on our YouTube channel right now, including Dez's playthrough of Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah.
You're like, man, it's a good thing I didn't play through this for the channel because everybody would have hated it and it would have got a bunch of, well, maybe more people would have watched it because they would have wanted to see my terrible opinions. But
Yeah.
no, so that's up there. My playthrough of Control is ending about actually as a week from the day you're hearing this, or at least it's being uploaded. But this week, the day that this is being uploaded, my playthrough of The Last of Us is going up, and that will lead up
Yeah.
until Last of Us Part 2, which we'll be playing. And then we're playing the game Days Gone, the biker zombie game. So we've got a bunch of stuff, as well as a few bonus videos like Puntlies, our monthly pun-based video, and of course a bunch of extra stuff on our Patreon is available if you guys are on that. So yeah, there's something for you there.
Thank you again for your support. You're all amazing, and always remember that save games, save lives.
Bye.
My voice sings all night.